title of my uh, project is Evolution of Technology. My name is Jorge Rodriguez. Student ID number is A00574252. Instructor Dr. David Durnberg. Title of the class is Emerging and Future Technologies, EDUC 8342. This is spring quarter 2016. Date is May 14, 2016. Obsolete technology that's identified in this project presentation is desktop computers of 2000. Emerging technology is iPads. The obsolete technology that I decided to focus on for this particular presentation, multimedia presentation, is the desktop computer. It originally emerged as new technology because it replaced bulkier, older modern computers which would had long, heavy, wider computer monitors that consisted of them being connected with keyboards that had wires and cords to it. The computer mouse also had a cord, and the computer itself had a larger, wider CPU with a 5 1/4 floppy hard disk drive and floppy disk drive. And now it was being, in this particular time in the 2000s, it was being more phased out with a computer. That's a computer that had a flat, slimmer screen, also slimmer, a computer tower that no longer had a 5 1/4, floppy disk drive, but a 3.5 hard disk drive that had small. The storage devices changed to include, this that were 3.5 inch in the for the storage device. It was wireless keyboards, wireless mouse, video cameras, scanners, and microphones. At this particular time, they were not those were not wireless. They had to be connected with a cord. And the reason why these particular components of the computer and there's a computer is becoming obsolete because to purchase one was very expensive, and so it was quite costly for the school districts to purchase one for every student in the classroom, much less every student in school. So the only classrooms that had a good abundance of them were a computer lab. The traditional classroom only had at most 4 computers, desktop computers in the room, which the students could only use as a learning station. When the teacher had small group interventions where the students would rotate to different groups. Okay,
Hey, my name is Alan Gallegos. I'm a campus technology specialist here at Cedar Bayou Junior School, and I guess I'll be talking to you today about technology.
Okay, so why do you think desktop technology has become more obsolete in the education field?
I think the one word you're looking for is portability. Desktop, of course, is very stationary. You can only use it then and there. And so now, with the idea of wanting to move things around, now you have things like laptops. You have iPads, and now even your phone is essentially considered a computer itself. So I think that's the main reason why it's becoming obsolete.
Okay, which technology do you think has replaced desktop computers in the education field?
Like I said, back to the first questions, I think definitely iPads are the biggest thing. Now, instead of having applications, well, They are apps, they're applications, but they're just so much more easier to boot up. Now it's not a matter of turning something on, waiting for 10, 15 minutes for it to come up. You know, your iPad, similar like your phone, it's usually just there and ready for you. It saves time. So definitely iPads, I would say, would be the number one thing, as well as laptops.
Okay. Why do you think Goose Creek CISD has made the decision to purchase iPads for students and teachers?
It's easier to work with. You use less resources. You don't have to worry about paper, pencils. It's one gadget. It's very interactive with students, and I believe it's the future of technology. And so I think it's important to get them to work towards the future with the kids.
Okay, thank you. The last one. Do you think the iPads will become obsolete in the education field? If so, what new technology do you think will emerge over iPads?
If they do become obsolete, it won't be anytime soon. I think we can all agree on that. They're new in terms of their IC teachers and institutions now, just and maybe in the last 5 years, just barely put them out there. So I think this is the future. I don't think it's going anywhere. If there's anything that's going to be replacing it, I wouldn't use the word replace. I would use the word add on, because they're going to add on more to it. So those things are not going anywhere.
All right. Thank you, Adam. All right.
Hello, my name is Jorge Zarzosa. I'm a teacher at Peter Highland Center in Goose Creek. I teach newcomer academy students, recent immigrants, English. I said at Peter Highland Center in Goose Creek. Question number 1, which technology would you rather have your students use to create, edit, save, and retrieve word processing and presentation documents? A desktop computer and iPad, and why? I said for word processing specifically, I like to use a desktop computer, mainly due to the keyboard being it's faster to type, and I think more comfortable than using, say, even an iPad attached keyboard, just because of the functionality purposes and the tactile. The way it's easier for word processing and to get used to. I think in profession and mainstream, you're going to use mostly a desktop or a laptop that has the word features, either using Microsoft Word or Google Docs. It's better for them to use that as far as creating, editing, and saving word processing documents. Question number 2. Which technology would you rather use? A technology teaching learning to a desktop computer or iPad? With that being said, about the word processing, I think I would use an iPad. I'd rather use an iPad in this case. What I've experienced is the students are more engaged with iPads. Kind of these more novel ideas. Kind of they take personal knowledge. It's cooler to touch it. It's more tactile, like I said, and it's more interactive as far as instead of just using a mouse with your hand, you're using more your hand. In some cases, you can tilt the iPad back and forth. So as far as a teaching and learning tool, I like to use iPads. Also gives them, if I project on the screen something, they have their own kind of, they can, like Kahoot or something, they can actually interact with the screen at certain times if I give them permission. So I can also push things out to their iPads as opposed to everybody on their own little computer. So as far as a teaching and learning tool, where it's not strictly word processing, I like the iPads better. Number 3, do you think students are excited and engaged in learning with iPads or desktop computer technology? I think they're excited and engaged with both desktop computer and iPads. They like that better than paper and pencil or reading a book and let's go over a PowerPoint on something where they don't have any kind of interaction with it. But like I said, for number 2, kind of more the iPads, they're kind of more engaged and more excited because of the interaction and kind of that whole movement and tactile thing. So they are engaged and excited with any kind of technology. Desktop works, but iPads, I think, a little bit more better, more excited and more engaged. Question 4, which technology do you think would produce more measurable or growth of student academic achievement, iPads or desktop computer technology? Why or why not? Like I said, I think due to that engagement and that interaction, I think overall you'd see more growth in with the iPad and with the iPads. And again, also I think that's kind of it might be, I think, overall, but it's also based on like the student. Depends on how the student motivation is. You can A highly motivated student would probably grow more on a desktop than a lower motivated student, less motivated student on an iPad. Um, but I think one of my concerns also is also like I mentioned that the iPads are sometimes harder to monitor as far as what they're doing on the iPads. The iPads, it's easier to kind of get off task and like flip out and double tap into like different apps and things like that that they're probably not on the learning app. Whereas a desktop computer, if you're in a computer lab, the teacher can have, they can kind of screen, they can see what everybody else is screening, what they're looking at the and more monitoring. Um, so it depends on what, I guess, the student, what type of students you're working with. And again, also, but kind of go back to one for word processing, for things like that. As far as, I think it depends on what the task is. So if it's a word processing task, things like that, just because of the speed, instead of typing like your little hand thing on the iPad, the keyboard and the mouse would be a lot faster. So their time would be a lot more efficiently spent on a desktop and a keyboard than an iPad. So I think it depends on the task as far as student achievement. But maybe a presentation, if you do like Adobe Voice or an app that's on the iPad that's more engaging, you kind of still do those things like what's that one? Anyway, like not the PowerPoint, but the similar one on PowerPoint. Can't play that, but those apps they could definitely show learning more and probably more interactive on the iPad as opposed to the desktop. I think that's it.
The emerging technology that I'm going to focus on in this presentation, multimedia project presentation, is the iPad. The iPad has emerged over this type of technology because, in my opinion, and many of the research that I've been looking at, that it's more portable. It's I would say more cost efficient to purchase for students. You can do multiple things with the iPad as opposed to this type of technology, which required multiple computer peripherals to do some tasks. There's on a single iPad you have the capability to take photos, take videos, watch videos, make videos, create music, edit music, listen to music, surf the internet, do research on the internet, create documents, spreadsheets, databases, chart graphs. Um, there's a plethora of things that you could do with the iPad, and how schools are using the iPad, or integrating the iPad into the classroom. They're using it, like I said, as research, using it as a learning tool, teaching tool. There's apps that you can use the iPad as a dry erase board. For example, the Educations app, which allows the teacher to give a problem and check a student's understanding by spot checking each student. So it could, because each student could have an iPad, as opposed to not every student being able to have access to the desktop computer. What's next? In my opinion, I think what will be next would be the next evolution, which would include the integration of the 6 sense technology. um, and I believe that Prana of Mystery uh, will partner with Apple to create the next iProduct, the next warped technology that will revolutionize the way we interact technology, because we already interact technology with with technology a, a in a fascinating manner, but with the integration of 6 technology, the potential to for wearable technology to do more things, we could see iPads being sent to the supply closet within the next 15 to 20 years. The kind of technology that I think might replace the current and emerging technology of the iPads, like as I mentioned, is sixth sense technology, having the ability to interact with technology with simply having an innovative device that resembles a necklace with a camera on it and sensors on our fingers is very fascinating. The sixth sense technology will pave the road for us to interact with technology in a 3D real world environment. The most intriguing part is that we can do this without the use of an iPad, but we could still use the iPad apps without having to have an actual iPad, and that's why I think that Print of Mystery will partner with Apple, because then that way the Sixth Sense technology can still utilize the iPad apps while the user is manipulating the technology. In summary, I think education technology has evolved from teachers using overhead projectors uh, um, to smart boards to using iPads over desktop computers. Technology will, in my opinion, will continue to evolve to include 3D technology, and that's why I think the idea of the sixth sense technology is very critical and in the future for educational technology, because not only teachers could benefit, but students could physically manipulate abstract concepts by having them in a 3D world environment where they can physically manipulate items. And this new technology will be coupled with iPad like technology to improve how we learn and teach in the classroom. The obsolete technology that I'm focusing on in this project is the desktop computer technology of 2000. And the first force of that influenced emerging technology is the evolution technology. Evolution technology is used for expressing how the obsolete technology first emerged as a new technology, because the desktop computer of the 2000 contained a computer tower that consisted of multiple drives, that 3.5 hard disk drive and CD-ROM drive, and some of them include USB ports. Uh, evolutionary technology is also used for expressing how the absolute technology became obsolete, because the desktop computer required peripherals to do some of the functions that people can now do with their smartphones and other smart devices. The next one is the rhymes of history, and the rhymes of history helps explain why desktop computer initially emerged as a new technology, because people could bring back the idea of taking pictures or video of themselves without having to have a physical actual camera, standalone camera, or a video camera. They can do this with the computer camera. Rhymes of history also explains why the desktop computer became obsolete by having people who grew up in the early and 90s and early 2000s experience when they had to connect using uh, 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 various types of modems. Some included dial-up and some included analog. Uh, this disruptive technology is also useful in explaining why this type of computer technology of 2001 emerged as new technology, because this innovation included flat screen monitors, wireless keyboards, computer cameras, like I said, scanners. Each new innovative computer peripheral that was developed to go along with this type of computer was its own disruptive technology, because now uh, companies were creating better and more efficient computer peripherals that can go with your desktop computer. This type disruptive technology is also used in explaining why desktop computer technology became obsolete, because the transition that was made from desktop computer technology to laptop technology. To this would make it more portable. The next one of the six forces that influence emerging technology is science fiction, and science fiction is useful in explaining why the obsolete technology of desktop computer technology in the 2001 emerged as new technology by looking at such science fiction movies as The Matrix, which included flat screen computers, more slimmer technology, uh, uh, and more of the technology that was able to do a lot more faster functions, and then the old traditional desktop technology. And desktop technology is also useful in explaining how they became obsolete, utilizing the science fiction by looking at uh, uh, such movies that came out as science fiction movies that came out, such as the original Terminator, and the second Terminator, which included smaller laptops, slimmer laptops that still were able to do the same functions but more. So they were trying to technology was trying to evolve to smaller laptops, more portable, and be able to do more functions. The next one is the increasing returns, and this is useful in explaining why the obsolete technology of desktop computer technology originally emerged as a new technology by identifying that the innovations that were done by such companies as, like for example, Dell, who created slimmer monitors, faster computer processing chips, and uh, 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 slimmer computer processing units, that had multiple disk drives. Before this, like I said, mentioned before, the computers itself were uh, bulkier, heavier, and sometimes they even had separate detached computer hard drives. And the increasing returns is also used for explaining why this obsolete technology of the tech computers became obsolete, because at the beginning Apple was competing with IBM, and they surpassed these computer giants, not only them but HP and Sony as well too, and they are uh, laptop and tablet technology pursuits. Break Queens is useful in explaining how the obsolete technology of the tech computers emerged as new technology, because the two competing technologies, which was Apple and IBM, Apple emerged over IBM. Great Cranes is also used for explaining why desktop computer technology became obsolete, because these two technologies that were competing were the hardware technology and the portable technology. The portable technology had ultimately surpassed the physical stationary hardware computer technology. Alright, emerging technology in reference to the six forces that influence emerging technology. An emerging technology that I'm going to focus on for this particular multimedia presentation is the iPad. And the evolutionary technology helps explain the emergence of the new technology of the iPad. In 2010, that has replaced desktop computer technology because of the idea of the greater flexibility and portability. The many iterations of the iPad allow for it to be more functional than that of a regular desktop computer. The idea that people could now interact with technology simply by touching it was very fascinating and exciting. And the rhymes of history can also help explain the emergence of the new technology of the iPad to how it became obsolete. The idea of communicating with other people via face-to-face using the iPad app of the uh, FaceTime rekindled that face-to-face interaction that many people were missing because being that now we have a lot of this innovative technology, a lot more people are engrossed in their technology. So this app, FaceTime app, allows for people to see each other, more like a video chat. The idea of capturing memories using uh, 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 the iPad app of the camera also rekindled traditional picture taking that people would do with actual cameras, and also with the old traditional uh, um, uh, computer camera. This disruptive technology can also be used to explain the emergence of the iPad over the obsolete desktop computer technology, because before the iPads were emerging. Laptops were emerging as a new technology being and over that of this type of computer, because they were smaller versions of themselves. However, since iPads disrupted the flow of the laptop technology coming out, uh, uh, this has created many companies to strive to mimic what Apple is doing by creating dual uh, uh, purpose laptops that can function as both a laptop and as a tablet. The next component of the forces that influence emerging technology is science fiction. Science fiction can be used to explain the emergence of new technology of the iPad, which has now placed the obsolete technology of desktop computer technology, which we see in the movie Minority Report, which came out in 2002, which has the main character interacting with technology by using his hands. The main character uses movements from his hands to manipulate the technology, and just 5 years later, we see the emergence of the iPhone, which enabled people to use the touchscreen technology to manipulate functions on their cell phone. 8 years later, after the emergence of the Minority Report movie, we see the release of the iPad in 2010. Then this technology has made real strides in bringing science fiction from the movie into the real world. Increasing returns can also be used to explain the emergence of the new technology of the iPad, because the iPad was able to perform the functions of a computer in the form of a tablet, which was only priced at $4.99. Microsoft, Google, and Samsung and BlackBerry tried to compete with Apple's new innovative tablet, but could not match the superiority of the iPad. However, red queens are, in my opinion, are not useful in explaining the emergence of the new technology of the iPad that had replaced the obsolete technology of desktop computer, because they are not just two competing companies vying for the crown of the best smart tablet. Microsoft has created the Surface Pro, which has the functionality of both a laptop and a tablet. Dell has also its version of the tablet laptop, which is the XPS.